Okay, we're doing a sample of how to use the idea of tell, show, try in a class, and how to use a focus cue and get all of that information across, especially when there's potentially two lifts going on in the class. So I'm going to demonstrate one way, and then Garrett's going to demonstrate how he ran it for his class. Okay, so today for strength, we have two choices. We have the back squat and the snatch, and no matter which choice you do, we're going to practice the same cue together. We're going to practice both movements, and then when we go to our spots, I'll be coming around and reinforcing the cue for everybody. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on, you go ahead and put your bar down. We're going to focus on keeping our hips right underneath our body and engaging our quads. So in the squat, we're going to think about keeping our hips right here and driving our knees out to engage the quads. So let's just come down and do a few tempo squats with this in mind and see if you can really feel your thigh muscles burning and engaging to hold you there. So oftentimes when we do a back squat, we might accidentally shoot our butt up first as we come out of the squat. So just try that, where you accidentally shoot your butt back first and then come out of the squat. That's really normal. A lot of people do that. Let's bring the bar onto our back and we'll practice this cue of keeping ourselves really upright, hips forward, engaging the thigh muscles in the back squat. Staying nice and tall and upright. Good, and just feeling your thighs do the work. Awesome. Now the same thing is going to apply today in the snatch. When we're at the bottom position, instead of letting our butt be high, we're going to drop our hips forward and our knees wide so that we can really feel our quads turning on. So you probably feel like you're burning a little bit down here. That's very normal. And we're going to stand up the same way we would out of the back squat. So we're keeping our hips right underneath us, driving our legs out, and standing up the same exact way. This should feel very familiar to what we just did. So let's try 5 with that in mind, keeping our hips right underneath our body, knees driving out. Good. And now the only difference is for the snatch, we're going to have 2 squats. So we'll do that same pull, and then we're going to practice catching in that same squat where our hips are forward and our knees are driving out. So let's try 3 more, just like that. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And then for good measure, try one where you accidentally let your butt come up first too quickly. Yep, on the squat, and one where you try pulling with your butt up. Okay, so we can start to feel the difference. So today, all I'm going to have you focus on either lift is hips forward, knees driving out so you can get your thighs to do the most of the work, your thigh muscles to really generate the power. So let's split off into our separate groups. We'll get warmed up, and then I'll come to each group and explain the rep scheme.
Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate the same workout using just a different focus cue, but I'm going to try to hit the same pieces. So for today class, we're going to be doing back squat or snatch. So you choose one of those options. We're going to get warmed up with our empty bar, but for right now, I'm going to talk about the focus cue. So let's all just stand up tall, and we're going to play around with our pelvis position. So we can swing our pelvis back, tipping our pelvis forward, swing our pelvis underneath, tipping our tailbone under, and we can try to have our pelvis really neutral. So as we stand up tall, I want you to think about turning your glutes on, screwing your feet into the floor, and that should help you to get your pelvis nice and neutral. Now, if we also brace through our core, we should be able to let our pelvis relax a little bit without necessarily having the pelvis tip forward. So why that's important is we want to have our pelvis and low back organized and then braced through the center so that as we begin our hip hinging movements, which both the snatch and the back squat have, we don't immediately tip our pelvis forward. So let's try that just a few times. Stretch up tall, glutes on, brace, and then we're going to turn our glutes off while holding that brace. So we're going to have to be active here so that our pelvis doesn't lose that position. Try that just a few more times. Shake it all out, stretch up tall, pelvis neutral, glutes on, brace, hold the brace, relax the glutes, and we can even try reaching our hips back a little bit, continuing to have the pelvis neutral in that brace. All right, let's try that a few times with our back squat. So we'll get our PVC on our back, stretch up tall, activate the glutes, activate the brace, and then we're going to slowly initiate our back squat by reaching our hips back. And notice I'm not arching my back and dumping the pelvis forward. but rather keeping that brace. So as I relax my glutes to bring my hips back, my pelvis and low back stay aligned, and just work your way down wherever you get to while prioritizing that brace and that pelvic alignment. Let's go ahead and do 5 of those. I would be watching the group to see how that goes, offering correctional cues only if I'm seeing a large number of the athletes doing something weird. All right, now let's think about that for our snatch. So for our snatch, we're gonna organize at the top once again. So stand up tall, glutes active, brace, and then we're gonna take that alignment all the way down to our bar, avoiding arching the back. So if we just grab our bar and then try to find out where our neutral is, it's a lot harder. So if we brace at the top, activate the glutes, activate our brace, and then relax our glutes to bring ourselves down to the bar, we can have a better chance of having our pelvis and low back stay in alignment with a nice strong brace. And then we're just gonna do 3 slow-mo snatches. So we're coming all the way up. As we turn over, we again don't wanna dump the pelvis forward. We wanna stay braced and catch in that quarter squat and stand all the way up. Let's go ahead and do 3 of those slow-mo snatches on your own. Again, I would allow the group to do that and just watch and not offer any more cues unless necessary. All right, that's looking great. You're gonna decide if you're doing back squat or snatch today. We're gonna share bars. So if you're doing back squat, go ahead and grab a partner and a bar and get set up. If you're snatching, you're gonna be on the floor. We're gonna do empty bar warm up. So back squat's gonna start with 10 and then do 5, 4, and then sets of 3 warming up to their working weight. If you're snatching, you're gonna do 5, 4, and then sets of 3 warming up to your working weight. Once we get into our warm up, I'll address both groups independently and talk about the rep schemes. All right, so in both of our demos, you could see that we hit some specific things. These things don't need to be in the exact order that we did them in. In fact, there's lots of ways to reconfigure them, but this is a pretty simple and straightforward way to do it. So we both introduced the workout in brief. We talked about what movements were going to be included in the workout so people had a sense of what they were seeing. We introduced the focus cue. So that was our piece where we talked about either engaging the thighs or keeping the pelvis nice and neutral, and how that could carry through to both movements that people might do. We demonstrated the movements using tell, show, try. So we didn't introduce a lot of additional cues, telling them what it is, showing it to them, and letting them try it. Then we can see what it's going to look like and know if we need to address individual concerns or the group as a whole at that moment. And then both of us sort of did give instructions. So we told people what was going to happen next. We told them to go grab a bar, grab a partner, get set up, and do warm-up reps. And we let them know that we would talk through the specific details of like reps and sets and percentages and all that after they had started in on their warm-up. Okay, now I'm going to show demoing a Metcon with things just in a slightly different order. Okay, next up is our Metcon. Come in close so you can hear what I'm saying. We're going to be doing a 10-minute AMRAP, so as many rounds and reps as pleases you of these movements. We're going to do 10 kettlebell figure eights, then 16 total single arm kettlebell swings, then 16 total single arm half kneeling kettlebell strict press. So the 16 total, you can do 8 on one side, then 8 on the other, or mix it up as you like. Let's look at these movements and practice them together. So for our figure eight, we're just going to take a wide stance. And remember, we're going to focus on our pelvis being neutral relative to our low back. So if we start in standing and get our pelvis neutral, we can brace here and then try to hold our pelvis neutral using that. So we're going to bring our hips back and lower, and we're going to just bring our hands together between. Standing all the way up gives us a chance to reset that pelvic positioning. So let's start with this. And then you could imagine holding your kettlebell, swinging it through your legs, passing it in between, and as you stand up, it goes out to the side, passing in between. I'll give you a chance to practice this with a kettlebell in just a moment, but this is the basic movement. That's going to be very similar to our kettlebell swing. So with a single arm, we're going to bring the kettlebell down to our hips and swing up to about shoulder height. And again, we're thinking about not arching through the back, but trying to hold that brace so that as we swing, our pelvis stays neutral relative to our low back. Let's just try a few of these with our pretend kettlebell. We can switch hands for our pretend kettlebell. And again, it's 16 total. So you could do 8 on one side, switch 8 on the other, or pass more frequently if you like. Then we're going to pause, get our kettlebell in our front rack position, head down into our half kneeling position. And here it's really easy to, again, allow our pelvis to dump forward, but we're trying to here activate our glute quite a bit and our core to keep our pelvis nice and neutral. We're doing 8 press on a side. Go ahead and try that with your imaginary kettlebell. If you needed to do this seated or standing instead of kneeling, that's also great. Everyone go ahead and grab a light kettlebell. Try each of those movements with your light kettlebell, and then we'll have a moment before we start to try and grab the kettlebell or a couple of kettlebells you want to use for the workout. So you can see here I explained the entire workout first. So I didn't need to introduce the workout at top because I just explained the whole workout. I did refocus on that focus cue. I demoed with Tell, Show, Try, allowing people to just try the movements without necessarily grabbing a weight first, and then gave the instructions to try those movements again. And again, I would wait to offer additional cues until I saw that they were needed, focusing just on reestablishing the focus cue and how to apply it to those movements. And I just sort of gave a little summary at the end of what we would do before we start the workout timer.